welcome to the next edition of the Audacious Hot Seat. And we have the amazing Paulette McCormack with us today. I'm so pleased to have Paulette with us. We've known each other for a long time, but it's wonderful to catch up with people and to see what's going on in your life and what you're doing. So Paulette, tell us a little bit about you and your business and what you do.
Okay, so Fresh HR Insight. So we've been in business coming up 10 years, which is very exciting. Considering I started the business when I moved from the UK, I always joke because no one else would employ me. And that it is true, because when I first got here, I already had my first master's and I worked at high level HR position within the UK. I was either overqualified, underqualified, didn't have the local exposure or didn't have the local knowledge. So after a couple of months looking for a job, I thought, oh, well, I'll employ myself. So that's how Fresh HR started, and lo and behold, it's still here, which is a bit exciting. So going from there, then I went and thought, well, I'll go and prove to you I've got the qualifications. So I thought, why not do another master's? So I've done another one. So I've got my master's in employment relations as well, and I'm actually at the moment studying my Bachelor of Law with honours as well. So I'm almost halfway through that. We help small businesses with their HR challenges. So starting from bringing someone on board. So we don't do the recruitment side, we do outsource to other recruiters. We go from once they've been recruited, getting their contracts in place, making sure they've been paid correctly per the award as well. So we have a payroll compliance division as well that makes sure all the boot tests or the better overall tests are done correctly, particularly for annualised salaries. So we do that, make sure their policies and procedures in place. Important one at the moment, we're just sending out all the new and updated COVID policies, what to do, within workplaces as well, which is quite important considering the environment we're now in. So getting those ones up to date for them. When it comes to staff who may not be doing the right thing, we help the employers with the management process of that, whether it's performance management or in some cases disciplinaries. It may lead up to and include termination of someone's employment. And we also do the workplace investigations. So if there's a bigger matter, we quite often get called in just to do the investigations because we're an impartial party, and that's an important thing. So there's no bias and no accusations of a process that's not been fair in its entirety.
Brilliant. Gosh, the amount of work that you've done, looking back 10 years, it must seem like on one hand a long time, and another time like just a minute ago that you started.
Oh, it does, because there's some other qualifications dunked in there in that time as well. don't really mention. So no, it's been really good. And one of the things I've always wanted to do is go out into more regional areas. So we do actually have, I've said to you before, Frida, so we've actually got a mobile office that's arriving in 8 days. I ordered her back in January, so I'm getting very excited about that. And so we'll be able to go on the road, and we're going to be servicing from Coffs Harbour up to Cairns and out to Toowoomba. So that's sort of our service area. So we'll be able to go on the road and get out to those more regional areas that may not have the available support.
Brilliant. HR on call, I love it, or on the road, mobile
on
HR.
Road.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. Frida, good on her. So the interesting thing, I love the things that you're saying, because a lot of people who listen to the show are either new to business or they're new to entrepreneurship. And so many of them have been through what you've been through, just basically not employable for many different reasons. So what an awesome way to start a business, by going, hey, I'm actually going to prove you guys wrong. I'm going to prove that I can do this. And then the nice lesson as well is that, there's always opportunity to keep learning and improving your skills and your qualifications as you go on. So did you ever have a fear starting your own business that you weren't qualified enough to do that? Was there any any sort of question over your own self-doubt that you could do it?
Oh, still do, Lauren. Always always feel like I'm a fraud in a situation, as you know, and for those that are listening, and I also work at the university as a lecturer as well, so I started doing that probably about 6 years ago now. And I used to stand in front of, or in the day that you had face-to-face, used to stand in front of 3 or 4 first year, second year, and sometimes third year students and talk about HR and what they should be doing. And I always felt like a fraud. And, so I guess you do, but once you get there, you just waffle on, and I'm pretty quick with what I know. But you've always got that concern underneath, and I guess that drives you to want to be better constantly, particularly with the employment legislation side. It's changing so frequently, particularly with with COVID, it's changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that one of the big problems we have, and we mentioned this just before we went live, is the constant shifting sands at the moment for employees and for business owners. You know, what happens if there's another lockdown? What do I do about vaccinations? Well, how do you think businesses in general should be looking at the constant change that they're having to face these days?
Oh, look, they've just got to roll with it. there's not really much else you can do. I mean, with stand downs, you've got to be sure it's a stand down, and we had that at the very start. There was so much support we were throwing out there, for businesses what to do in a stand down. Can they actually stand staff down, because a stand down is unpaid? Just recently with the New South Wales, when that went into lockdown as well, I've got clients who are just over the border, and one particular client had staff on either side of the border, and which made it quite difficult for them. So there was a drop in their work. So we negotiated with the staff to drop their hours back by half, and then they could pick up some of the support packages available as well. So it's really working with the business owner, but also the employee, because business owners are scared, the employees are scared, everybody's feeling vulnerable, everybody's in an unknown era, and we just need to support each other and work through it as best as we can.
Yeah, communication's a massive part of that, isn't it? And just keeping those communication channels open so that you're inviting those discussions, I guess. So obviously one of the biggest challenges for you has been that, overcoming your self-belief and being able to be sure that you could do it. I'm sure what you know about HR and managing human resources and people management in your little finger is more than most people know. But what other challenges have you had to face in business that you've been dealing with, even if it's just recently or over time?
In business, well, HR has always been seen as a cost as well, and it's the first thing that gets struck off. I actually had a discussion with a potential client yesterday, and they kept repeating to me that cost is a factor, we're cost conscious, and then he starts asking me, "You're going to lower your prices?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well, why not?" And I said, "Well, for one, I'm not the most expensive, but I am the most qualified." And I said, "And for two, you're just undervaluing my services by cutting the costs." So I wasn't going to move on it, and I did make the comment, what my education has cost me, you benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is interesting, isn't it? I'm sure you're very frustrated with the same thing most HR specialists are, in that you're only ever called in when there's already a problem. Whereas if they had actually had you working with them, they would never have even had the problems they've got.
Oh, absolutely. I've been working on an investigation recently as well. And if they had have done the right thing at the start, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. And you're talking about start going back a few years. We wouldn't be in the situation, or they wouldn't be in the situation they are right now. And they are quite at risk right now.
Absolutely. So I guess what would the size of the business be that you'd think to yourself, I need to have someone like Paulette and your team helping us out? How big would a business be to be able to have an HR?
From startup. So when you think from startup, as soon as you're going to get employees on board, you need to make sure the contracts are in place, particularly with the casuals as well, because there's so many changes within the legislation to do with the casuals. Making sure their contracts are correct with those as well, making sure you're aware of the casual conversion, because you don't want to find 6 or 12 months down the track where you've got a casual working there systematically and regularly, they suddenly come back and go, hang on a minute, I'm meant to be permanent full-time or permanent part-time. You need to go through that process, and to avoid any double dipping, which also goes to the contract for casuals, you need to make the relationship clearly set out as that of a casual, and there's no obligation for ongoing work, and that they get the increased amount in lieu of the other conditions that would be contained within the award.
Yeah, it's that ambiguity, isn't it, that happens, especially when businesses start up and when they're growing, that things just happen and they don't put these things in writing and so on. That becomes the real risk.
Well, it's really true, because when you start up a business, you're actually thinking, I need to make some money now, I need to make some revenue. You get caught up in doing what you know, and that's all fair and well and great. Good on you for getting in business for the first place. Good on you for making a success of it. But you still need to get those processes right. And I used to talk a lot about the 3 little pigs. We all know the story of the 3 little pigs. Which house survived? And it was the one that actually put the foundations in place.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy for people to think about when they're building their business and employing staff. Absolutely.
Yeah, I nicknamed Fair Work the big bad wolf.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's not go there. So You've achieved a huge amount in the 10 years that you've been in business and in other parts of your life as well. What are some of the things you're most proud of achieving, Paulette?
My two beautiful daughters.
Oh, fabulous.
One's driving now, one's on her P's, which is very scary.
The family Uber, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I don't have to do that anymore. That's not me no more. But yeah, no, I'd be very proud of them. I'd be very proud of my tenacity, just to keep going. So every time, and I have hit some road bumps in business. I've hit some sharks that have been swimming in the oceans as well of business. To be able to bypass those and raise your head above it and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. That tenacity, that resilience that small business owners have is just extraordinary. So well done. You are listening to the Audacious Agency Hot Seat, and we have the amazing Paulette McCormack here from Fresh HR Insights. And if you want to hear more interviews with amazing entrepreneurs and business owners like Paulette, please tune into the Audacious Agency's YouTube channel or check out the Hot Seat podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Now, Paulette, we've been working together for a while, but what was the thing that the Audacious Agency did to help you?
Just being you, really. It's always nice. We talked about before about feeling like a fraud in what you do, and it's always nice to hear from someone, hey, you're great, you're amazing. Yeah, and it's those affirmations, I guess, and that you need to hear. So I'm a person, if anyone's ever studied love languages, my top love language is affirmations. So for someone to say, you've done a great job, that really fills up my love bucket. So I like hearing those things. So if anyone wants to get on my good side, just say really nice things to me.
I love it. You can say nice things about anybody, really, and that make them feel good. We should do it more often, really.
We should. You should treat others the way that you want to be treated.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've won some awards as well to celebrate your success.
Yeah, got some for teaching at the uni, which was good. And yeah, the woman in business, I can't remember what. I had to look at the certificate. One of those people that gets them and go, oh yeah, okay, what's next?
Brilliant, I love it. And one of the things that I always ask our guests on the show is if you could go back in time and meet up with yourself when you first started out in business, what would some advice be that you would give to yourself?
Don't chase shiny objects. Don't spend so much on marketing material that you don't need. The amount of brochures I've chucked out and got rid of, and yeah, you just don't need them. So I've spent a lot of money that I didn't need to spend.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So much of what we do in business, we think we've got to do all the things the big organizations do, and we really don't. As small business owners, we can do a lot more with our personalities, and just talking to people, picking up the phone and having a chat with people goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there any advice you would give as an entrepreneur and a mum who's, in business, doing all these things, basically, having to bootstrap and to start yourself up every day and get yourself going? Any advice that you'd give to anybody else who's, starting in business? Whether it's an HR tip or whether it's just an entrepreneurial tip you can give them?
Entrepreneurial tip, be kind to yourself. Take time out if you need to take time out. I've spent a lot of time recently going down to the beach just to watch the sun come up. And it's just, a new day and a new start, which has always been nice. So yeah, as a person, look after yourself. When it comes to the HR side of it as well, don't try and muddle through. Reach out for advice, because it's the muddling through that can end you in hot water.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the advice is there. It's so easy to get hold of that advice. And I know you've got lots of resources available to people. If you are interested in working with Paulette, you can go to her website. It's very easy, www.freshhrinsights.com.au. And a link will be underneath this interview. So you can go and find out more and get help and even have a chat with Paulette if you wanted to do that. So Paulette, it's been absolutely brilliant to catch up with you today and to chat to you about your journey as an entrepreneur. Are there any last minute things you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, drink lots of wine. Gin's even better.
Coping mechanism.
Make sure you've got a cocktail cabinet.
Yeah, nice. It is so important, isn't it, to celebrate your success, to have that downtime. Oh, yes. Otherwise, how do you keep going? So
yeah, and it comes back to being kind to yourself. There's no point strapping yourself to your computer for hours and hours and hours, because you're just going to burn out. Yeah,
and then you'll be denying yourself the things you're working for, which is life with your family and doing those sorts of things you want to do.
Absolutely, and I also do believe in having a dream board as well and updating it every year, and then actually remembering to go back and celebrate what you've actually done.
Brilliant. It's amazing, isn't it, when you do put things on a dream board, how much of the time it actually comes true.
Yeah, I always keep I do them every year, but I always keep the one from the year before. So I've got them for about 8 years now, and I go back and go, oh, I did that. Oh, I did that too. Oh, I didn't quite do that one, but I did that one. So it's always really good to look back, and it does. We forget to celebrate how far we've come.
Yeah, especially when you're focused on today and tomorrow and what you've got to get done. Absolutely. I love it. But thank you so much, Paulette, for your insight and your passion for what you do. It's been fabulous to catch up with you and to have a chat. And hopefully we will hear all of you again in the Audacious Hot Seat when you tune into the next episode.